Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Edge podcast brought to you by Lockin, where we have tough conversations with traders that have seen it all and made it to the top. Guys, today my guest is Josef Trades, the guy that mainly trades NASDAQ and S&P. And he is kind of different from all the traders that we did an interview with because, we interviews mostly traders from the crypto space. So I hope this guy is going to come and, talk the real game and how people actually trade, because I think that's what's missing in the space right now. But Josef, how are you, man? How's everything?
What's up, man? I appreciate you having me on. This is kind of my first podcast, my first interview that I ever did. So I'm really excited about it. And I watched a few clips of you, so I'm really excited to bring some futures knowledge into the podcast.
Okay, sick. I'm ready. So let's unpack it. How did you even get into trading? What is your backstory? Because everyone we speak with, they always did something interesting before trading. And what is your story?
I mean, before I started trading, I was big into the bodybuilding and fitness space. Like I did some competition, I had personal trading. Yeah. I did some men's physique competitions. So I have a few national titles, and I also won the Arnold Classic. If you know this,
I know. Yeah, I mean, I also similar. So I know that's sick.
Yeah, we just talked about it. Yeah. And then during my university times, I studied finance, and then I got a little bit, you always hear about trading, you hear a little bit about stocks. And then I think like many people got into trading during COVID, and this was the same for me. Like during COVID, I got into all the GameStop AMC rallies, and this was kind of my first trade that I took. And it was, like I 10x my money, kind of, I put in just $100 and I made like, 500 or $1,000 out of it. And I was like, damn, this is pretty nice. And then I looked a little bit more into it through YouTube and stuff. And then I actually started with trading options because back then I did not have X or anything else, just Instagram. And I saw a few people trading options, and this is how I got into it. And then around, I would say after 1.5 years something, I discovered futures, and this is where I have been since then.
And what's so interesting for you in futures, let's say over options, right? Like why did you decide to go fully on?
Yeah, I think options, especially as a beginner, when I started, as everyone, right, I did not have many knowledge about trading. So options is, I think it's hard because you have so many different things, right? You have the time decay, you have all these different things you need to look out for. And I did not really have success with it because, again, in my first year, you know how it is. You test a few different stuff, you test a few strategies, you look around the internet, what there is. And then with futures, I think the main thing I like about it is it's simple. You have a regulated market. Everyone, like in Forex, you have spreads and all this kind of stuff. With futures, everyone has the same fill, the same entry. And you don't have to think about anything else. If you put a limit, you get your entry there. If you put your stop, your TP, this is exactly what you get, and you don't have to think about anything else. Like with options, for example, the longer you're in a trade, right, everything changes. You can hit your TP, but if it's too long or if it's a choppy market, you can hit your TP, but still lose money because of all the things options have. And with futures, it's kind of easy.
100%. Yeah. And so you mentioned you tested multiple things, and I also think you tested multiple strategies. And how did you find, your strategy?
I think like in the first 1 to 2 years, I tried many different things. Like, as I said, with options, I basically stumbled up on supply and demand. I think this is like the standard strategy everyone tries out once in a while. And of course, it did not click with me because I never really knew, you have a supply zone, you have a demand zone, where to get in, where to put my stop. I'm like, I always want to have the perfect thing, I want to know where my entry is, where my stop is.
Yeah.
And then I did some different things like supply and demand. I also, got into a few Discords. I looked what other people are doing. Then I tried volume trading, market structure things. And then I came across ICD on YouTube. And I'm not like someone who knows everything about ICD because there's some people, they watch every videos. There's so many things out there. And this is also like, there's a lot of hate also with ICD. But what I got from ICD is basically how the market moves, right? I'm a big fan of just simple price action. And with ICD, I just learned, okay, highs and lows is where the market always draws to. For value gaps, also a thing when you have a gap on your chart. And this is what I got from it. So I just watched a few videos, and this is when I first started to find consistency. Like there is it's called 2022 mentorship, which is like, I think it's most popular mentorship online. And this is what I watched. I got consistent with it. And then over time, like right now too, I kind of built my own system around it. Like first it was more like ICD, an ICD model that I built around it. And now I discovered kind of my own level system that I use. And this is then coupled with basically pure price action, candlesticks, and yeah, my level system. So pretty simple. And if you look, for example, at my charts on my X account, there's not much on there. You know, I don't use much of indicators, or I don't draw a lot of on there. It's just my levels, candlesticks, and that's basically it.
Why do you think people say ICT doesn't work? Because a lot of people, you know, they have so much hate on this strategy. Why do you think
I think the most, what I've seen when I came into the space, because when I started to learn trading, I did not have X or something. And X is really like a place where all the traders
it's an
are, right?
interesting place? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the most hated thing about ICT is just the cult that exists around it, you know. And then some people, when they start trading ICT, because it's one of the most popular concepts out there, right? And I think when most people, especially on X, they trade ICT, and then they think this is the only way. And then you have all this, beef between, you know, people saying this strategy is the only way, ICT is the only way, there's just this working. And then you have the other people. And I think because it's such a big, how should I say, maybe cult in a way. And then people get the hate for it. But I think, in my opinion, like everything works. I've tried many different things, and looking back too, I can use supply and demand now. You know, I can use volume trading that I started in the beginning. And currently, the funny thing is, when I'm trading right now, I use a little bit from everything. You know, you have your market experience, and I think this is the biggest thing, like really having the experience. And then once you got the experience, you know, everything works. You know, you can make money with indicators, you can make money with ICT, whatever it is. It just needs to fit you. And this is what I'm always saying to people, you know, as long as it makes sense to you, that's all that matters. Because at the end, we all want to make money in the market. And as long as you make money, you don't need to, you know, teach anyone, explain it to anyone. As long as it fits you, you're good.
Yeah, I think what's so funny is that people want to trade one strategy religiously. They want to say, oh, I trade ICT and you guys trade this and I trade that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, you know, if you really think about it in a smart way, you don't have to marry any strategy. You can use all of them. You can look for influences, right?
Yeah, I see many people like right now too, they start with ICT and now they start implementing other stuff, you know, because ICT is basically pure price action, right? We just look at the chart, we don't use anything else. And now I have many people online that I see start using a few different concepts. You know, they start, let's say, they bring in order flow, or they bring in, you know, some indicators, whatever it is. But I think the good thing with ICT is, and this is what got me consistent, is just understanding a simple chart. You know, just looking at a chart with candlesticks, highs and lows, not using anything else. And this is how I got my experience with just simple price action. And I think once you can understand this, you can then add things on top. And that's the way, in my opinion.
And you're very big in prop firms. How much do you manage right now under all the accounts?
Right now, I'm usually in the range between like 10 is like my safe place, I would say. Right now I have 10 accounts. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on prop firms? Because there's so many people saying, oh, it's a scam, it doesn't work, and they just want my money and they're gonna hunt my stop loss, blah blah blah. What do you think?
I mean, in my opinion, when I started trading, I did not know prop firms exist. So with options, for example, I mean, I'm not sure if there are options prop firms, but when I started trading, I had a few small accounts, right? Live accounts. And like just some small, $500. And of course, in the beginning, they slowly go down, right? Because you don't know what you're doing. You maybe around break even, but at the end, I did not really make money. And then I discovered prop firms. And of course, with prop firms, you have the advantage of a low investment, right? You can, for example, with $50 or $100, you can get the buying power, for example, for 50K.
Yep.
And I think the main issue people have with prop firms when they say they only want your money is, of course, it's true. Their business is to make money, right? They also want to make money. But they also give you the opportunity to start trading with a low cost. And if you can follow the rules, then you can get paid. So, of course, there's not something, they don't give you like a free account with no rules and you can make money, right? Then they would not make money. And I always say there are pros and cons, but I think prop firms are one of the best things that can happen to us because you don't really can trade right with a small live account. Let's say with a $100 live account, I can't even trade futures, right? I can't do it. And maybe even if I can, one loss in this market right now, even if I trade a micro, which is the lowest size I can trade, one loss and I'm done with the account. But with prop firms, I can invest $100, get a 2K drawdown with a 50K account, and I can try my luck. And of course, you have rules, but if you can trade, I always say the rules should not really be a problem. And also what's really important is to...
Hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Of course, go with firms that have a good reputation because there's so many firms out there. And if you go, for example, on a channel like Prop Firm Match or something, you can look at the reviews, you can look at the rules, and then decide, okay, this firm has many reviews. I like it, it pays, and the rules also fit my trading. And then this is how you should decide. You should not, go with the newest firm or the cheapest firm. Go with the firm that has good rules, that pays, and that fits your trading style. And then you should be good, in my opinion. Like I never had any problems with any firm.
True. That's cool. So we spoke about the rules, and I'm curious, what are your rules? Because I like how transparent you are about talking with talking about account blowups. Obviously, very important, happens to everyone. Some people pretend it doesn't happen, but anyone that is a trader, they know it's just a part of the process. And what kind of rules do you have right now, and how do you make sure you follow them?
I mean, of course, I have the rules for my strategy, right?
Okay. Yep.
That you need to follow. So everyone has their own strategy rules. But I think, for example, with prop firms, and as you said, with blowups, right? I try to be transparent as much as I can because I think this is kind of, or was missing in the trading space. I think more and more people start to be transparent because when I came on, people always just showed the wins, and it doesn't make you feel good, especially as a beginner, because then you're like, damn, I'm just losing and these people make so much money. But at the end, everyone loses, especially with prop firms, right? This is a little bit of a different trading because at the end, if I lose an account, let's say a 50K account, I lost the drawdown, right? 2K. So I lost the account, but I did not lose 2K. I just lost my investment, right? So I just lost $100. So it's a little bit different than a live account. But my rules for prop firms specifically are usually, I like to look at the drawdown that I have. For example, when I have a 2K drawdown, I then look at my win rate, like what are my stats for my strategy. And if, for example, I have a relatively high win rate, I would say around 70, 80%. And this gives me the knowledge that I know, okay, I win, let's say 7 out of 10 trades on average, right? If I have a 70% win rate. So then I like to go to my drawdown, take the drawdown and be like, okay, let's say I take 2,000 and I divide it by 4 because 4 losses usually don't happen with my strategy in a row. I can risk, for example, 500. I know this is a safe risk for me. if I want to be a little bit more risk off, like for example, right now in this market too, I then go a little bit lower and I risk, for example, 300 per account, then I know, okay, I'm really safe. There should not be a blow up if I follow my strategy, if I don't size up, and if I don't overtrade, for example. So I think this is the biggest thing with prop firms, because I see many people, of course, gambling with prop firms, because at the end it's a return on investment game, right? So you can buy 10 accounts, maybe one hits a payout and you already have everything back, right? But I like to really trade with prop firms, because one day they maybe do not exist anymore, and then I want to be able to trade, because if I just gamble my prop firms account, I can never trade a live account. So I always looked at a risk accordingly. And what's also a good thing is, when it comes to rules, just first of stick to your strategy, have good risk management, and also don't overtrade. I think this is also a big thing. Like, I like to take not more than 2 trades. Sometimes maybe it's 3, but usually when I have a win, I'm also done. Because if I have my base hit, I'm big on base hits too. I don't need a home run. So if I can make, let's say, $500 or something, I'm good, right? If I risk, for example, 300, I make 500. It's called like a base hit in the prop firm space. It's not a home run that I make like 2,000 or 3,000 with a 2K drawdown. So get my base hit and I'm done. And if I have a loss, I then sometimes take another trade. Usually after 2 trades, I'm done. Like, if I take 2 losses, I'm usually logging off, because coming back from 2 losses is, in my opinion, always a hard thing, especially for your mindset. This is just me. So I like to take 2 trades. Also with my strategy, I know how many trades present themselves. So I'm not a scalper, for example, where I know, okay, I can take 10, 20 trades in an hour. Like, I'm more like, okay, per session, there may be 2, maybe 3, if it's a really good session, trades, and that's it. So I can't even take more than 2 or 3 trades. If I do, it's usually over trading. And this is not a good thing.
What are some of the other things that you might have done in the past, or you saw other people doing? Because you mentioned over trading, but there's more to that. Like, there's more mistakes, right? And I think and something that we discovered internally is, like, you can put the same strategy, winning strategy, in front of 2 different people, and one will be winning, one will be losing, right? That is very interesting. So what other mistakes maybe you made in the past that made you blow up the accounts, or what mistakes you see other people making?
Before I answer that, to come back to what you said with one strategy to 2 different people, that's what I meant in the beginning too, right? It just needs to make sense to you, because everyone sees the market a little bit different. And I also had a few mentees, like I teach sometimes my strategy a little bit, and they're choose. Some see or trade the strategy completely different. They see certain stuff different. So at the end, it really needs to make sense to you, the person itself. And to come back to your question, I think the most mistakes people make is, especially with prop firms, of course, over risking, right? Because you don't really have that much of a risk. You only have the risk that you invested. And the second thing is, I think people are comparing themselves a lot. This was me too in the beginning. Like, when I started with prop firms, I discovered it through social media. I had a few people using it. And then I saw, people taking, the maximum payouts, or they made, 2K in one day or something. And then I thought to myself, I wanted to, right? So instead of starting maybe with $100 wins, I then wanted, okay, I want to make 500, right? Or I make 1,000 right away. But this usually, of course, ends the other way, especially in the beginning. Because if you take a big hit, you're meant to blow the account usually. It's not like that you can fight yourself out of drawdown. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They compare themselves, and then they try to replicate what others are doing, and they only think about the money. And this is why also on my X account, I try to show the losses, show blow ups, show, not just wins or not just payouts, like really be about the process itself. Because this is what then helped me too. In the beginning, I was so obsessed with money and with getting the payouts that I completely forgot about the process, right? So really the process of following your strategy. And I know the goal is to make money, but the money will follow when you follow your strategy. Because of course you need to have a profitable strategy, right, at first. But once you have one, you just follow it with the right risk management. This is then what you should focus on. And this is also what made me the most money, like really following the strategy, not being obsessed about, money making, because this all follows. Our goal is to just follow the strategy day in and day out, and then you will get to a payout or make money. And I think this is the most important mistake the biggest mistake I see online, like people trying to rush the process, especially again with prop firms.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things actually is enforcing the strategy, because everything we just spoke about, like fundamentally, there is no secrets to trading, right? There's no secret. It's not like your favorite guy on Twitter has some secret knowledge, but he just has a strategy and he just follows the strategy. And he has his mind in place. One of the other interesting things I saw recently is there's a guy who actually wanted to invest in us, and he was like, I have 5 traders. I have hard-coded stop losses and take profits, so they don't kind of move up. That's what a lot of retail traders do, right? Like they'll hit TP too early because they just come back from a drawdown, or they'll move the stop loss because they're like, oh, it's not gonna go that much, that's just a little bit. So he hard-codes that. But he said the determining part of whether a trader is successful or no, he noticed 2 things. One is when they confuse the trend and they start to go too much long when they should go short, etc. And second thing is emotional problems. So he noticed that every single time a guy has some stuff going on with his family, whatever, this is what blows up the accounts, like really.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as you said, with the trend, for example, I think maybe in the last 2 months, for example, I have taken maybe 2 shorts or something. I love my longs, and like NQ, for example, all-time highs, right? Every week we had all-time highs. And I saw so many traders trying to short the top, right? They try to find, okay, now the market needs to fall, but I just waited for, if I saw a short, for example, I usually waited, because of course at all-time highs shorts are usually short-lived, and instead of catching the short, I waited and then caught the long, which of course was usually double the short, right? So going with the trend is way easier, and the market especially is also made to go up, right? Especially if you trade, for example, indices like the S&P or NASDAQ, they are made to go up. Every year they are going up. So if you would just take longs, you have a better chance of winning too, right? So going with the trend is a big thing. And I think also with the emotional side, my ex account is also big on that, because this was the most important thing I struggled with, like plain and simple, and this is also when the things like comparing yourself, all this stuff comes into play, because at the end, the comparing, the over trading, every mistake we make comes from emotions. Because with trading, with strategy, to be honest, you can go on YouTube, you can go online, you will find a strategy pretty soon. You can find something that's pretty simple, and if you would execute it exactly each day, you could be profitable. But usually when you take a loss, or when you take a whole week of losses, people can't stick to the rules anymore. This was the same for me. Like when I took 2 or 3 losses, I was like, usually could not recover. Yeah, it's over. It's, the account is like over, and I was like, okay, I can't get it out anymore. And I think this is the biggest hurdle people have. It's not the strategy. It's really the emotions that people stop trading or can't get to profitability. And I speak from experience. Like if I would have just stick to what I knew was working, also in the beginning too, I would have been profitable way earlier than I did. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think to some extent trading, it's a very deep introspection journey into yourself, and it might sound like woo crazy, but the truth is that it's never that the emotions are the problem. It's something deeper in emotions, right? So
yeah, of course, yeah.
And also, like traders that won't kind of solve that, they will never be profitable. So I think the key is always, if you struggle with like emotional things, you have to understand your own triggers. Like what are, because it's not like the mistake is the emotional mistake is the problem. This is the cause of a problem that is somewhere deeper. So only when you understand that really deep problem, then you can kind of become a profitable trader, because otherwise it will always like hit your trigger, right? And losses are always part of the game. So like sooner or later you will lose. and it's just inevitable.
Yeah, totally
and some
agree.
traders, they just go for it because they're like, okay, I have my strategy, I trust the data, I know that, let's say, I can lose 3 out of 10 trades, so they're just like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, when do you think is the right time to switch from a prop firm account to the live account?
To be honest, like in the beginning, as I said, I traded a live account, like small live accounts to learn. And now it's just prop firms. So I have not been at the place where I said, okay, I'm switching to a live account, because currently I'm just using prop firms. But when I would switch to a live account is basically when I have, of course, a big live account that I say, okay, this makes sense, right? And you should, of course, have a strategy and know that you can handle yourself. Because, if I put, let's say, even 20K, or if it's 50K, whatever I put in a live account, if you lose it, you really lost, the money.
You didn't lose
With
the
prop
fund
firms,
account, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. You can't just put reset, $50 reset, and then you have your account again. It's not like with prop firms. You can't do that. So I think the biggest thing is knowing that you can handle a live account, and of course having the buying power for it. But for me, for example, I feel like prop firms are such a good thing to do, because I can, of course, open a live account, but the return on investment that I have with prop firms is just unmatched. And that's why I always say, don't bash prop firms, like really use them to your advantage. They give you a tool. If you can use it right, if you can stick to their rules, you have nothing else will give you that much of a return on investment than prop firms. So that's why I always say use them. I use them as long as I can. And then maybe in the future, I will open a live account. So that's also my plan, of course. A live account is always the goal. But right now, it's, I'm not thinking about it. And I think many people, especially the ones that I see online, I think you interviewed a few too, like the ones using prop firms, I think they don't have a live account because they know how to play the prop firm game, and then they just, use it as long as they can. And I think this is a good way. And that's why I said I'm using prop firms the way I would trade basically my live account too, because if I switch, I can trade it. I'm not full boarding my futures accounts, my prop firms accounts for a lucky win. I'm really trading my strategy. So if I make the switch, I can basically trade.
It's very interesting. Like, I mean, it's such a cheat code. People don't realize, right? Like, you don't even need your own capital.
Yeah, especially in the beginning too. Like, as I said, I mean, luckily I always was like,
hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing, because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Smart with my finances. I did not, open my 10K account in the beginning, because then I would have lost it for sure. So it was like $500, but still, let's say it was, I think, 2 or 3 accounts. So it's still 1.5K or something. With 1.5K, I can, buy like 15 prop firm accounts, and just one payout usually covers all the expenses, because you can buy, let's say, 10 accounts, you spend 1K, and if usually when you get to a payout, usually you are around that 1K mark or something. So you made everything back with one payout. And this is really, a blessing for all the new traders. So I highly recommend everyone using it. But of course, the right way, right? If you just full body try to get lucky, you won't. They will get your money, of course, at the end.
Do you have like a long-term plan? Let's say, I'm hitting $1 million, I'm hitting whatever in payouts, and then I put it in stocks, and this is your plan? Or, you want to switch, you want to always trade, and let's say at some point switch to live account? Like, how do you think about it? Let's say, 2, 5, 10 years from now?
I mean, this is what I'm doing right now too. Like, of course, I invest my money too into, long-term stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I love the trading lifestyle. I love trading. I always wanted to be self-employed. I always was self-employed. So I really like to be on my own, making my money on my own. I mean, you can't really beat trading, right? You sit in front of a
It's really
screen for a
hard.
few hours. Yeah, and that's your job. So I'm honestly not sure what's in 10 years. But I think I will always trade. Maybe switch maybe to swing trading, or maybe to higher time frames if, let's say, I'm older. But right now I will keep trading for as long as I want. And then of course I always invest into other stuff. I always say use the money from trading to finance other stuff, right? Because it's a good thing to not just have trading as your main income. It's good to have maybe some other things, maybe a business or some investments, whatever it is, to bring you maybe some passive income. Because if you only have trading, and this is what I had for a long time too, it puts emotional pressure and it puts extra pressure that you don't really want to have on yourself. Because then the thing comes, in your mind with making money even more, right? You already want to put this thought out of the picture, for the process and not the money. But with only having trading as your own income source, it's hard to not think about the money, of course. So I
I
think
agree
this
with
is a big thing. Yeah.
it's one of the most interesting things we also noticed in our research, where we found out that basically, being a full-time trader is all good, etc. But obviously, if it's your only source of income, at some point, sometimes when you have losses, you start having those thoughts. You're like, oh,
Yeah, for
this is
sure.
okay, or I'll have to, I don't know, go back to 9 to 5, and I don't know what do I really do. And the most interesting part is that once you kind of don't care, and it might sound weird, but once you do it from a place of, if I lose it, I lose it, okay, but I have different income,
Yeah,
right? That's actually when you start performing at a very high level.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
it goes the
experienced
same
the
way
same
out
thing.
when you put the pressure down, when you don't actually
Mm-hmm.
obsessively stress about it.
Yeah. Like really following the process and not thinking about the money. Like with the same thing, like that's what I said when I made basically the most amount of money is when I just followed the process, like not really thinking about, okay, it's also with prop firms, when you have the rules, they are here for a reason, right? They're not just here to make it
Exactly.
harder, but they also influence your perspective and your mind, right? For example, with futures firms, you need 5 winning days usually, 5
Yep.
winning days of $150. So let's say usually people sometimes blow up on the last day because they just need this one winning day, right? And instead of waiting, and I did this too once or twice, and this hurts because you're like, I just need one more day, I need one more trade, like $150, and then you force a trade because you want the payout, right? You want the payout today. Like you say, okay, it's just 150, I just need a few points, and then the
Yeah.
trade goes against you, it's a loss, and then you want to make it back, and then you start over trading, and then the payout is away. So all these kind of rules, they're here to influence you. But once I was like, okay, I don't care. Especially the thought process that I have already given a few people is, think about trading. Really, you want to do it as a job, right? You want to do it as your job. So treat it as a job, not a hobby. And if you go to your job, when do you get your salary? Like for me in Austria, people get their salary at the end of the month. So if I
Exactly.
start trading with a prop firm, for example, in the beginning of the month, I don't need to pay out after 5 days. If I can get paid, let's say at the end of the month, and I don't know, my goal is to make 5K. I don't care when the 5K is here or the 10K, whatever it is you want to make, or even if it's 1K, you want to get paid each month. So just
Yep.
treat it as that, there are 20 days, usually 20 trading days. So you don't need to hit your trading days in 5 days. Take your time, treat it as a job. And this is when, again, I made the most amount of money. Like really, I don't need today. I don't need tomorrow. I don't need the payout. I don't need to pass the prop firm today or in 1 or 2 days because this is what I can do. I can take my time, like really slowing down. And usually slow is fast, I always say in trading. Because usually when you try to push, like when I tried to push, it was always then I maybe lost the account. So instead of having the account, I needed to start again. So I wanted to push, but now I'm 2 steps back. And instead of pushing and then being slow, you slow down, take 2-3 days more, and you will get way more funded accounts, way more payouts than you would have if you put your feet on the gas.
100%. 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that analogy. Slower is faster.
Slow is fast, yeah.
It really is. What do you think about the use of AI in trading?
I mean, I see it more and more on my timeline on X2. People, using cloud and all this stuff to code some things. I honestly have not used it, but I think it's a good thing. Like I use a tool which is called Edgeful, for example, with some statistics, and they also implemented or start implementing AI. So I think it's a good thing. I also sometimes, used AI to analyze myself, to maybe dig deeper into some emotional thoughts that I had or some things, because they look at you in a objective way, right? They don't know you. So I think it's a good thing, yeah. And it really comes also down to your strategy, of course. I think from my strategy, there are some things I could code, for example, but a lot of things are also discretionary, right? You just know this is a good setup, or
Yeah.
even if the candle structure and everything looks good, sometimes I don't take it because I don't have a good feeling about it. So it really comes down to the strategy. But of course, I think it's a good thing. And the more things you can remove from yourself, maybe remove from your thinking, the better it is, in my opinion. If you can code something, if you can use AI, do it, because it can be another hand, another help, because the less you have to think for yourself, the better it is in trading, in my opinion. That's why you need rules for your strategy. If you don't have strict rules and you always need to think, then it's hard in the moment. But if you know, okay, these are my rules, these 3 or 4 things need to happen. If one doesn't happen, I don't have a trade. It makes it easier. The same thing maybe with AI, but again, I haven't used it for my trading, just for the psychological part a little bit.
The interesting thing about AI is that it can look at you in a very non-biased way. But here you have to be careful, because AI tends to hallucinate, and there's a lot of people that use it wrong. So they will, like, the way they will prompt the AI, they will use it more as a confirmation bias rather than an outside perspective. But we had this like situations where I was like interviewing someone, and he's like, "Oh, I was just on a losing streak, but I felt this setup is wrong, but I just couldn't take it, because in my head it was like, oh fuck, what if I lose it again, right? But I put it in AI, and AI was like, hey, this is what's actually happening, and it was able to kind of like analyze the facts based on logic, not emotions. And this is what we always say, which is there is no secrets to trading, but you tend to forget in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And this is literally all it is. If you could like summarize how to be a profitable trader, this is all it is. Because in the moment you forget, in the moment you want to make it back, you forget that the market is not going to close tomorrow. Like, it's going to be there for the rest of your life, and you will have time to make it, right? The analogy I like to use is in the gym is kind of the same, because the reason why most people get a coach is because of that, to keep them accountable. Because if they don't have a coach, they will not do one more rep, or they will not eat the exact amount of calories, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like as long as you, or the more you can remove from your thinking, the better it is, right? As you said, with AI, of course, you need to use it the right way too, because I always say when you write with AI, I always tell them to be honest. Don't tell me what I'm thinking or I want to hear, right? Really tell me like what I should do. And sometimes too, when, for example, on a psychological side or something, sometimes I really had some good moments where I was like, damn, this is true, right? I need to do this and that, and not be like, thinking like I have figured it out. Like, you have to take myself accountable. And as you said, the same with the strategy, you need something. That's why it's, I think, also hard with trading, because most of us are alone at home, right? We don't really have people around us that we can talk to. So that's why I like, for example, social media, because it's bad for comparing, but it's good for connecting, right? And if you have a few people that you can talk to, it's a good thing to be like, okay, I'm doing this and that, maybe they can help me. So yeah, you need to be accountable.
100%. And one last question: if you had 60 seconds and you could give someone who is just starting out an advice, what would you say?
I think the most important thing is to don't rush the process. Like really take your time. Trading is, I always say, is like everything else, right? It's not like when we do, let's say we go to university or we learn another job, we all take our time, right? We take usually
Right.
3 years, for example, or something, and then we have our degree. And with trading, people expect to make money in like 1 or 2 months, right? And if they don't make money in 1 or 2 months, they quit. But if it would be this easy, right, everyone would be trading. Like I always say, everyone and the grandma would be trading because then it's just pressing a few buttons and you make money. But it's
Yeah.
not that easy. You know, if you look at broker statements, if you look at all the statistics, so many people, you know, I don't know what the stats are. I think like 80-90% of people lose money in the long run. So
Yeah.
it can't be that easy. So really take your time. And if you do that, you will first of save yourself a lot of money and also a lot of pain, of course, because if you lose a lot of money, you will have a lot of pain and it puts you in the wrong mindset, in the wrong mind space. So really fast is slow again. Slow is fast in trading. That's what I always say. So really take your time. Don't compare yourself. Trust the process. And if you do that, the money will automatically follow. That is my biggest
Awesome.
advice to everyone starting out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it,
For the
man.
people that want to find you, follow you online, where should they go?
At the moment, I only have my X account, which is Josef Trades. I plan to start other social media channels, but right now it's just my X account, and I post everything there, like my trades. I answer every DM, so if you need help, I'm always happy to reach out and write back. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you.